It's Dan again with Chapter 7 of the Sussex Coast Road. In this episode, we're dealing with the City of Brighton, but only for the bits along the coast, mostly. We are following the road along the famous seafront with its history of piers, murders, riots, bombing, and sunny days out on the beach for the rich and the poor alike. Brighton, known as Little London, has grown from a small Saxon farming and fishing village to a metropolis of over 300,000 people. It is possibly the first and definitely the most popular seaside resort in the UK, attracting millions of tourists every year. Its history includes kings, nobility, and the rich and famous, as well as working-class families. And it has seen its share of rock stars, youth gangs, and mobsters. It has had riots, political bombing. The city offers a day at the beach, a colorful pier, all sorts of entertainment, good restaurants, great hotels, and old-fashioned B&Bs. We are sticking to the A259 Coast Road, called here the Marine Parade. Starting from the east, just past Rottingdean, the first significant site is the Brighton Marina. Brighton did not have a natural harbor, so large boats had to moor offshore, and tenders brought people and goods to the beach. In the 1800s, the building of a pier relieved this problem. But as the city grew, so did demand for moorage. The marina was built in the 1970s and opened by Queen Elizabeth in 1979. Besides moorage for 1,600 boats, the marina offers commercial and residential buildings. If you're a boating enthusiast, this is a wonderful place to live, work, and play. As with other seaside resorts, swimming pools or lidos were all the rage in the 1930s. At Black Rock, Brighton built its own in the popular seaside modern style of the time, complete with changing rooms, cafe, and a big diving platform. Other than being closed during World War II, the heated swimming pool was very popular until they started to build the marina next door. Construction drove people away in the 1970s, and it was eventually demolished when cracks started to appear. On the land side here, we see what looks like a French chateau. The French Convalescent home was opened in 1896 as a rest home for French nationals living in England. Paid for by France, they believed that the sea air would help the sick and aged live better away from the smog of London. During World War I, it acted as a military hospital. In 1986, the local health authority took it over as a care home. In 1999, it was closed and sold. The new owners wanted to tear it down for a new apartment complex. English Heritage quickly moved in and declared it a Grade II listed building. So the owners converted it into luxury apartments instead. Still one of the few French-looking buildings in England. The nuns who ran it for 100 years finally got to go back to France. After the chateau, we notice on our right the white four-story houses of Lewis Crescent and Sussex Square. These magnificent Regency houses have been inhabited for nearly 200 years by royalty, aristocrats, politicians, and the rich. One of the most noteworthy was the author Lewis Carroll, who lived in number 11 from 1874 until 1887. As we drive along, we find two more groups of Regency houses at Marine Square and Royal Crescent. Though not as big, but still impressive, these houses have had their share of notables. Sir Laurence Olivier had two houses joined together at Royal Crescent, where he lived for many years. On the beach side, we have the oldest running electric railway in the world. In its time, it has been lengthened, shortened, almost destroyed by storms, but still keeps on running. The mile ride along the beach from the marina to the pier is fun and offers a unique view of the town. Kemptown was developed in the early 1800s by Thomas Kemp as a residential estate just to the east of Brighton. Many of the Regency and Victorian houses have been converted into flats, clubs, bars, and hotels. It's very popular with students and artists. A 10-minute walk gets us to the beach, the pier, or the clubs downtown. Kemptown has been considered the gay capital of England for many, many years, which adds to the flamboyant atmosphere. The largest Pride parade in the country is held here every August. We cannot ignore the history of the three Brighton piers. The first, the Royal Suspension Chain Pier, was opened in 1823. Captain Samuel Brown, who designed and built it, was a suspension bridge expert. Chains suspended between the four towers held up the deck below. It was built as a landing stage for cargo boats and passengers. Fascination soon attracted visitors who wanted to stroll down the pier. This in turn attracted souvenir and candy kiosks and entertainment. Brown decided to charge an extravagant 2 pence entrance fee to keep the riffraff out. In the 1830s, thousands of visitors came every day. In the 1840s, the railways severely cut into the shipping business, but not the tourists. The only limiting factor was the size of the pier deck. The West Pier, built in 1860s, was the final straw. The chain pier was closed in 1866, and in 1896 a great storm washed what was left out to sea. Almost as a kind of revenge, the debris caused a lot of damage to the Palace Pier, which was under construction at that time. Before we get to the next two piers, we need to take a look at the Brighton Aquarium, the oldest aquarium in the world. Famous pier engineer Eugenius Birch designed it in the 1860s. The new building was constructed between 1869 and 1872, with its entrance situated right in front of the chain pier. The 700-foot Italianate-style building necessitated the construction of a new road and promenade. The 224-foot main hall contained hundreds of tanks. Beyond that was the Dolphin Lounge, with a 110,000-gallon tank, the largest in the world at that time. More than just an aquarium, it featured a restaurant, a reading room, and a conservatory. Further extensions included a skating rink, smoke room, cafe, music conservatory, theater stage, ballroom, nightclub, car museum, movie theater, and a fun fair. In 1922, it was almost sold and converted into a bus station. The Dolphin Show was very popular from 1968 until 1991, when Sea Life bought the aquarium and released them back to the wild. Today, the Grade 2 listed building is still a very popular family tourist attraction. The second pier was the famous Brighton West Pier, opened in 1866, purely as a purpose-built tourist entertainment structure. It quickly became the main attraction to the seaside resort. Additions were built in 1894 and 1916. Just after World War I, it reached its visitor apex when it offered attractions and entertainment including live theater, music, dances, and restaurants. By this time, it was getting competition from the Palace Pier, which was the third one. It was noted that the locals preferred the West Pier, and the Palace was the favorite of the day trippers. After World War II, it never regained its popularity. Maintenance costs were crippling the 100-year-old pier's finances. In 1969, it became a Grade 2 listed building, but the owner still could not afford the repair costs. It was finally completely closed in 1975. Several restoration attempts were made, but all failed. The storm in 1986 caused major structural damage, and the access was cut in 1991. Two fires in 2003 put an end to any dreams of restoration. The pier has been collapsing piece by piece ever since. On a quiet, misty morning, the last remains can be seen like a ghost ship drifting just out to sea. The third pier, opened in 1899, was originally named the Brighton Marine Palace and Pier. It was quickly shortened to Palace Pier. It was immediately very popular with the tourists. In 1911, a music hall was added and attracted performers like Laurel and Hardy and Charlie Chaplin. Except during the two World Wars, the pier has never lost its popularity. The post-World War II period saw a change of owners several times and an updating of attractions. The top end of the pier has changed into a fun fair with rides including a merry-go-round and a roller coaster. The iconic building has appeared in movies, books, and TV shows. Still attracting millions of visitors every year, Palace Pier has become one of the best-known symbols of Brighton, and indeed, England. Here's the one exception I'm making by going off the coast road. Leaving the Royal Pavilion grounds by the North Gate and crossing the road, we get to the Victoria Gardens. But the north end is a lovely edifice that should be viewed after dark. The Mazda Fountain was lovingly restored by a local lighting company in 2019 after being dark for 30 years. Using LED lights, the fountain's water jets have a rainbow of colors as they shoot up to 35 feet in the air. The company did it free of charge. The LED lights use less than 1% of the power of the old lights of the 80s. Watching the light show can leave you mesmerized. Besides, it's only a few steps away from the old King and Queen, one of Brighton's most fascinating pubs, full of nooks and crannies and coats of arms and stained glass. Back to the coast road, we come across another square of four-story Regency Houses with a bronze statue of a soldier blowing a trumpet. This impressive cliff is dedicated to the Sussex soldiers who died in South African Boer War. The park behind the Bugler is a clever disguise for an underground parking lot. Good idea, too, as Brighton parking can be a nightmare. Traveling further west along the road, we pass the Upside Down House, the Beach Club, and the Bandstand. When Brighton and Hove were two separate towns, the boundary was right here where we find the statue of the Angel of Peace. It makes a great picture at sunset. The angel, holding up an olive branch, is dedicated to King Edward VII, who convalesced here a few times. He was known as the Peacemaker. Unfortunately, the peace did not last long, as 2 years after the statue was erected, World War I broke out across the Channel. That completes Brighton for this book. We did not touch on the riots, the mods and rockers, the gangsters, and the IRA bombings. The story of this tourist city by the sea would take a big book just on its own. Please press the like button, tell your friends, and subscribe if you would like to be notified when the next chapter is published. If you are interested in the book this is based on, please check the link in the description below. Thanks for watching. See you soon.